Hello, and good afternoon. This is the Reggie and Henry show. Approximately 1 hour and 8 minutes late, so sorry for being that late. But I don't know, I just had one after another technical issues, and whether it was Facebook or whether it was my computer or whatever. But we're here, so I'm just going to turn down the volume a little bit and welcome you all. So I do apologize for my slight delay. As you can see, we have a little bit of a new set, and I'm going to have a bit of a water. Now, today we're going to be talking about mental health. And it's interesting because what really made us decide to do that topic today was the fact that next month it is actually National Mental Health Month across Australia. And you will notice my sidekick, Mr. Reggie himself, is not with us today. And I'll tell you exactly why and actually what prompted the conversation. But before I get into that, I hope you had a great week. It's been a week of much furor in Australia about refugees and fugitives and immigration policies, and of course the fires, for those of you who have been following it, that have been raging right across Queensland, begs the question about obviously global warming, and they're predicting an extremely hot summer this year. So these are the topics that seem to be catching our headlines. But specifically, as I've been going through the memoir, obviously it hits some very, very tough points. And the way we're writing it is kind of like almost, it's very much in motion. So I'm capturing what my father has said after 6 months of, live audio. And then I've been sitting down with him, making sure the facts are right, going backwards and forwards. Interestingly enough, he's actually remembering more the more he gets into it, which is really interesting. So there's been lots of revisions. And the way it's been written, it's very descriptive. He remembers a lot of details, he remembers a lot of facts. And let me tell you, some of it's extremely difficult. Really, really, really tough, because it's really vivid, and I won't spoil any of it for you all. So last week he said to me, I need to have a break. So I thought to myself, oh, that's no good. I want to keep things going and blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, 1 minute. I said to him, why? He said, you know what? It's just too much for me at the moment. I want a week or two, and I want to come back refreshed. And I thought to myself, that's really interesting, because that really is a recognition of a person's ability to acknowledge within themselves the limits. How far can you stretch yourself? How far is it healthy to stretch yourself? So that sort of like begged the question about mental health. And so I thought, in Reg's honour of taking a sabbatical for a week and a bit, I thought that I would delve into it. Interestingly enough, I have a very dear friend who's based in Melbourne, and her name is Laurita, and she's actually the multicultural ambassador for a foundation called I'll tell you exactly because I don't want to get it wrong. Bear with me, I have some notes here because I've been doing some reading. It is the Mental Health Foundation of Australia, and she's actually the multicultural ambassador for it. And this year, for the very first time, they're doing an inaugural event, which is actually, they're creating a National Mental Health Month. Mental health seems to be a very big topic at the moment. And I think to myself, by the way, these are just my opinions. Those people that require or seek any kind of medical attention or medical advice, please go wherever you are in your country, wherever you're hearing this from, and seek the advice that you require. So this shouldn't be triggering or stressful for anybody. But it's interesting because when you think about it, why does it seem to be peaking? And why, in my opinion, why does it seem to be more and more and more a topic of discussion. I think that really is, to me anyway, and to my way of thinking, and I've spoken to Reggie about it as well, everything's speeding up. Everything's speeding up, and I know that's pretty obvious, but everything's speeding up to the point where I think we just can't absorb, and something has to give. So that's my opinion about why mental health is being compromised. We don't really think of stopping, taking a breath, taking a week off. Recently, a very dear friend of mine said, you know, I tell you what I'm going to do, I'm actually taking a week off. I'm taking a week off and I'm going to go to a retreat. And I thought to myself, that's really healthy. And it made me think about, what do other people do? What do I do when it comes to mental health? For me, at the moment, I'm writing like a warrior ninja. So those people that know me know that I'm writing, and that for me is actually, although it's stressful, I'm also enjoying it tremendously. For me, actually, I just shut down. I shut off, I shut my computer off, I shut my phone off, I shut everything down, and basically I go to sleep. I have a good sleep for maybe, you know, a 2-day period where I really sleep a lot. I might go for a walk, I cut off from over interacting, and I find that that enables me to get my sense of place again, and it gets my sense of, you know, being solid and my anchor. And those people that I'm working with, I will say to them, look, I'm going to be having a bit of a shutdown. They know now. I'll be turning off my stuff and I'll be back in a day or two, not to worry. The other thing that I think from my experience that's really important is that you have people that are really near and dear to you that can tell you if you're going beyond a certain medium point, if you like. Now, this time last year, I actually was under a lot of stress with regard to my mum's book for whatever reason, and I found myself under a lot of stress from it. It just was very tough for me. And I learned a really valuable lesson. And the valuable lesson that I'd like to share with you all is that you really need to be aware of your range. I mean, I'm known to being really overexcitable and over verbose and all that sort of stuff, but there's a range. And now I'm so much more aware of a range that I have to have. I've been on antidepressants for goodness knows how long. And I don't see any reason why I should be ever off them. But I think my point there is as well, is having that monitored really properly. And I had stopped having it monitored for some reason. And what I learned, which I know sounds naive, but when you're on medication like that, you've got to have it exactly the same time, you know, whether it's day or night or both, exactly. And I had no idea, and that can actually really not necessarily do you any justice. The third thing I think that's really important with people that you're close with that are telling you whether you're within a range or not a range, and people, believe me, your dear friends will tell you, is keeping up with people, keeping up with where they are, what they're doing, not stalking them, but after a while with your dear friends, you know a pattern, you know how they interact. Of course, we can change and things can evolve and can be different, but I think overall, you know when it's time to maybe check in, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I actually did that very recently with another friend of mine. I said, look, I'm concerned. You know, it's got to be done, in my perspective, I think it has to be done in a very, obviously delicate way. You don't want to alienate anybody, and you have to also be careful that by saying something, you don't want to push a person overboard. It's a very difficult sort of compromise. So you have to choose your time. You have to be very calm. This is, again, my opinion of what I've done. And just make the person a bit aware that it's important for them to know that you're aware, that you think that they're under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, and find out what they're doing about that, and just increase the monitoring of that, I suppose, I think is really important. So Reggie's having a break, which I think is fantastic. You know, he told me, as we've been doing this last chapter, which basically takes it from the bombing of Poland at the start of World War II, all the way through to quite a horrific part of the beginning of the war for him. And he said to me, he had dreams about it. He's not slept very well because of it. And he said he wants to just have a complete break for like 10 days. So I think being aware of yourself, being aware of how far you can stretch, and making that a priority. Once it snaps, it snaps. So I think he was like, you know what, the book will wait, everything's going to be fine. And of course, I've got much to do anyway. I'll continue with my writing and lots of other things within the chapters that I have to fill in. But he made his mental health a priority. But we miss Reggie, because Reggie's pretty extraordinary kind of fellow. And I'm actually sure he's been on this planet more than once. That's just my opinion. And I never used to believe that, all that sort of stuff. A few things that I wanted to just point out to you. When I looked up Wikipedia, I'm just going to get this very quickly. I was really amazed. I didn't know, and that's just for Australia, and I'm sure all around the world, there are just so many organisations, so many foundations, so many ways you can actually support the betterment, if you like, the raising people's awareness of mental health. In Australia, there's the Australia Counselling Association, Beyond Blue, Black Dog Institution, Brain and Mind Centre. Who knew all of this? Grow, Headspace, International Early Psychosis Association, Lifeline, Luke Pritis Foundation, Melbourne Neuropsychiatry Centre, MindSpot Clinic, National Mental Health Commission, Psychotherapy and Counselling Federation of Australia, Are You OK, which I think has had a lot of prominence, reachout.com, Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists, Schizophrenia Fellowship. A couple of interesting points there. I'm going to be talking about the two organisations that I personally have started to get a lot of interest in, which I'll come back to in a moment. But here was a really interesting one, actually, talking about things that, you put a particular, it's a misrepresentation of something. So, for example, schizophrenia. So I remember doing a fashion segment, actually, on the Today Show, Australia. And I don't know, I was just talking about how the fashion had become at that time. I was doing a fashion trend report and how it had become very, everything goes and everything was very, very mixed up. And I called it, for whatever reason, it was schizophrenic. And interestingly enough, it wasn't 10 minutes after I actually got off air and I was going back to the design studio that a representative from the association called me up. And they said, look, we really apologise for having to disturb you. They were extremely kind, but they said that actually that is a real disservice to those people that have that particular challenge. They sent me a whole lot of reading, and I really learnt a lot from that. So your attitude, your education towards these things is really, really, really important. And I was just so impressed with their attitude towards me and my re-education of that particular challenge that actually people have. By the way, as you can see, it's a bit of a new set, and behind me is a love heart from Elise Hawthorne, who was added to the set, if you can see that. I haven't quite got the position up in front and center, which is what I do want to do. But thank you, Elise, for adding to our set. We really, really appreciate it very much. So, two really interesting organisations. So the first one is called the Mental Health Foundation of Australia. And as I said, they're launching an inaugural National Mental Health Month in 2019, coming up in October. And I found it really interesting when I was doing a little bit of reading up about them. They have this walk that is actually going to be at the same time right across the country. So if you look up, what did I look up here? I'm sure it was National Mental Health Australia.org, something like that. I'm sure I have. I'll make sure that I post that up after the show on one of the comments. And as I said, my friend Lucy Laurita is a multicultural ambassador. And what I loved about reading about them is their programming is extraordinary. They have workshops, they have interactive, services. they have a lot of community activities. So this walk to raise money and awareness is just an example of their thing that they're doing. And of course, other organizations are doing things as well. So I think that as the need continues to rise, I think they said it was something like, was it 1 in 5? Let me look up the statistic. It was something like 1 in 5 people I'll look that up and I'll also post it up, but a huge number of people actually have the challenge of mental health issues. And what mental health is basically, again, I'm not a doctor, so please do not take my word as something that is definable or medically to be used in some manner that is not authorized by me. But basically, it's the buildup of depression, anxiety, overeating is a sign of mental health. That might be me. But things to look out for. So when you just Google mental health awareness, you get so much information. But again, for me, it's knowing what my range is, interacting with people that can give me feedback if it's not within a good range, making sure that I visit my doctor regularly with any medications that I'm taking, and also knowing when to say, okay, this is too stressful at the moment, and just shutting shop for myself anyway for a day or two. So that's really, really important. Another interesting development that I had the honor and privilege of now a few years ago, but this app is like growing by leaps and bounds. It's by a North Australian entrepreneur. So, you know, Australia was, Western Australia used to be, you know, the last frontier, but actually Darwin is the last frontier. And if you ever visited Darwin in North Australia, Northern Territory, it's extraordinary because it's actually closer to get from Darwin to Singapore than it is from Darwin to Melbourne. So there you have it. So it's a very, broad reaching kind of viewpoint there. And it very much looks towards the world and Asia as its major influence. So from that town derives a man by the name of Clinton Hoffmann. Now, Clinton is Harvard educated. I mean, the man's extraordinary. And I actually met him, goodness, it must have been like, I'll tell you, nearly 5 years ago. I was up in Darwin doing the Darwin Fashion Week, the Northern Territory Fashion Week, and it was pretty amazing. And I was just, it was pretty intense and lots going on and lots of workshops, and I really made sure that I was involved in presenting and, master of ceremony and all that sort of stuff. And I went to out with the people that had hosted me, and we sat down to this place that's like, it's probably the best steak you'll ever eat in the world. And I think it's called Char, C-H-A-R. And I don't know, just across the table, these two people, a guy and a woman, a man and a woman, obviously on a date. And I don't know, it was just like me doing the New York thing. So I just struck up a conversation with them. And then I pulled Clinton aside and I'm like, that's a keeper, Clinton, that's a keeper. I'd never even met him before in my life or her. Anyway, as it transpires, 5 years later, we're still friends, dear friends. I have tremendous respect for him. And he's actually created an app that's downloadable, which is really, really interesting, for men's mental health. And I think that is an area that really needs a lot of support. So hi, Kathy, and hi, Elise, and hello, Robert. In Seattle, we have Seattle, Sydney, and Melbourne in the house. Welcome to you all, amongst many others. And so what this is it's an app that actually, and I'm going to actually read to you exactly what it says. The vision is an if app, if retreats, and if guide as a response to the dire need for men to have a better access to tools and information to help them to navigate life's ups and downs. Clinton's aim is to demystify and destigmatize mental health by delivering therapy tools to men everywhere in common language that anyone can understand. So what he says is that men don't often talk aloud about things that concern them. They keep it all bottled in. And actually, how this began was a friend of his, a very, very dear friend of his that he has an endearment name for, Twinkles, passed away by his own hand. And it really rocked him. And he decided that it could not be done in vain, and that he felt that there was a real need is support somebody like Twinkles would still be with us today. And so therefore he created this app. So if you look under your app application under If, and what's extraordinary is Jack Thompson has actually done the voiceover. He's very good friends with Clinton, and he's done the voiceover for a lot of his videos and his voiceover work for the app. And it's the Kipling poem, If, and I'm sure if you look that poem up, it will be very familiar to you. So these are initiatives that people are taking. There's so many ways we can be involved with regard to mental health. First of all, your own self-awareness, your awareness of your inner group of friends is really important, and your ability to switch on and off is really, really important. That's why Reggie, the main man, is taking a little bit of break today. Anyway, overall, I would like to say again, thank you so much for joining us. And sorry for the delay. It was like an hour and 8 minutes. It was a technical, shall we say, challenge. I'm like, okay. And it was interesting because it was a challenge of mental stress. I thought this is very, very appropriate. You know, I never had problems with connecting Facebook, connecting my laptop, all the stuff that I need to do this thing. And all of a sudden they all weren't working. And I thought to myself, very appropriate. But thank you very much, I had enough. Then after an hour it came back, which was really, really good. Overall, we are progressing extremely well. I'll actually maybe just take you around because this is the studio, as you know, wherever I am. And I'll just take you to a little sneak peek of the HQ. And actually up here are all the chapters. The green means they've written and they're done. Well, they're in their final edit before we do the final thing. And the black means it still has to be done. So basically we've got 11 chapters. So we've got The Stories I Told My Son, book 1, 12 chapters, and I'm onto the 6th. That's after 6 months of audio from the man himself, Mr. Weinreich, backwards and forwards with regard to editing it, making it concise, putting in information that was necessary, re-interviewing my father because, hello Neil, in New York City is in the house, welcome, because my father started remembering so much more than what he started with, and then taking that as I am the official author to his memoir, authoring it, then having it sent to New York City where it gets refined by our fabulous editor, Kim Taylor. It comes back to Australia backwards and forwards. And there are people in the world called secret shoppers, right? So they go out, they're commissioned to do secret shopping. I have a secret reader, and my secret reader is based in Calgary in Canada. And he's read every book under the sun almost. He's that kind of guy. And he's keeping abreast of the book as the chapters are done. And so I get a little bit of a litmus test on how it's progressing. Is it keeping within the realms of the spirit of how I started? Paris Cutler is consulting with the marketing and the heartbeat, if you like, of the messaging. And also she is overseeing that the writing itself is within the spirit of how it should be. So if you want to ask me, or am I obsessed, the answer is completely. I am a ninja, cerebral ninja writer, or whatever it's called. Anyway, but I'm pushing it like I pushed my law degree. That's all I can say to you all. So that's it for now. We're also moving ahead, going to be looking at a podcast, which we're going to be setting up, which will be more on the lines and more of a cerebral on the lines of love. And I say often, love wins. And now I'm going to be interviewing people around the world to understand how their formula of love wins won. Because it's one thing for my own personal experiences through my parents to see that they made sure that love won. But what about all the other amazing experiences that I need to add to my own knowledge and to share with all of you? So that should be coming up. A website should be coming up. All lots of different things are being prepared for this launch of the book number 1. So thank you for joining me. Thank you very much for coming into our HQ. This is the HQ. I'll just take you to view the HQ. So, and this is more stuff, plans and stuff. As you can see, the landlord doesn't know what I've done. More stuff up there. More on the walls here, just to keep me understanding and reminding myself of my guidelines. And behind me, hopefully you can see, is the part of Sydney that's called Paddington. And I might just take it out before I say goodbye. On this very, very warm day, they say that it's going to be a hugely hot summer. So I think they might be right. It's just been blue skies the whole summer, so hardly any rain, which is nice, but I don't know that it's great for farming. Anyway, over yonder you see the planes landing in and out of Sydney, like that. And there's somebody tooting for some reason, I don't know. And there's the traffic below. See the traffic below? Anyway, from Sydney, Australia to wherever you are in the 4 corners of the world, thank you so much for joining the Reggie and Henry Show, and we'll be back next Sunday for much more. Bye for now.